Well, hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in this crazy world I'm buffering. What I'm going to carry on where I left off earlier, talking about the Preston Davey, the little baby. I think by now we all know about this case. You know, we've been following this case, haven't we? And we've been following the trial of this beautiful little baby. Well, let's do how it. The dad's. He was being in the process of being adopted by Jamie Varley. This guy, this is the same guy, and his partner John, some ridiculous surname, GF. I'm going to call him, or just John. Over there in Blackpool, there's Blackpool Tower in the background. In Blackpool, in the north of England, they're in the process of adopting him, and this baby had to be rushed to hospital. But to be honest, I think it was likely from the evidence we've heard. He was already deceased, and they've not saved him, sadly. So we're in the trial. I'm going to get on with it. I did a video this morning following. So it was a day in the UK. So the court was not sitting Monday and Tuesday. They certainly did up for Wednesday. They had a very long day of evidence. And this today, Thursday, it hasn't been such a long day. But what's happening is Mr. Varley, Jamie Varley, has been speaking in his own defence. And I've got to just prepare you. I'm sure you know, certainly if you've seen any of this before, very upsetting details. For my members, please get your emojis ready, because it's lie after lie after lie from James, been out in quite a lot of lies. And his answer to when he's caught out with anything that is said that later turns out not to be true is, oh, I don't remember. Or if he's challenged, like he was challenged things that he said by Preston's foster mum, he just says, no, she's not telling the truth. The medical people are not telling the truth. They're not telling the truth at the hospital. The doctor that dealt with Preston when he had a fractured elbow, he wasn't telling the truth. There was a language problem. He blamed it on the language problem. Oh, he's blamed it on everything for the lies that he fought out in Cassins, everybody, except for his partner. So he and his partner, so they were this, happy little family, supposedly. They were in the process, as I say, of adopting Preston. They wanted him. They wanted a baby. This is, and it just wasn't as easy as maybe he thought it was going to be. It put a lot of pressure on their relationship. And Jamie Varley, the guy on the left, who's a teacher, a head at a high school, taking a year off work, but that doesn't seem to have been a good idea, because he was literally left holding the baby, and it was too much. It wasn't everything. Every time John went away with work, John is a salesperson, and he works away quite a lot. And Jamie Varley would have a hissy fit meltdown, and text him and tell him to get back here now, and I'm having to cope with the baby all on my own. And anyway, we heard some of the drama queen texts that he sent to John. And the question is, isn't it? So after this, little Preston was in their care for 4 months, during which time he sustained 41 injuries, over 40 anyway. including a fractured arm. His back of his throat was bruised. He had injuries on his bottom. And then the police found all these videos and photos that Jamie has tried to explain away, but they are not the normal sort of photo take of a baby. Explicit photos of his genitals, for some unknown reason, some video of him pooing in the bath, and Jamie actually holding his legs up so that he could get a better view of it on the video, sending that to his partner. And it seems like John was at the house when some of this abuse happened. So, you know, what happened after Preston very tragically died? They say they didn't speak to each other for 2 weeks. They both went to live with their respective parents. But then they got back together, and they've been back together ever since. So they're still a couple. So, you know, personally, I think they're both in it together. I think they're as complicit as each other. But it doesn't matter what I think, does it? Because what matters? What are the jury thinking, I wonder? What are the jury thinking? I keep forgetting to put a poll up of what you all think, if they're innocent, guilty, etc. I will do it probably over the weekend, because there's still a little way to go with this trial. So, yeah, Jamie has been speaking in his defence, and he's been cross-examined, not only by the prosecution, but also by John's defence lawyer, they've got different lawyers. And you just look at this little baby's innocent face, a lamb to the slaughter. So services have got some blamings, I think, because Jamie was, you know, actually saying that he was struggling, made some strange comments about Preston. You know, there were so many red flags, weren't there, that everybody this little boy down, and hope, you know, now he's free of abuse, in the arms of the angels. And you know what, if he wouldn't have died that day, you just think, how long would he have had to endure that he's probably endured? 4 months he'd already endured it. But if he wouldn't have actually died, how long would it have carried on? Till he was old enough to fight back? You know, how long would these men have carried on neglecting and abusing this baby? You know, so I think Preston just gave in the end. He probably just thought, oh my God. So, you know, his cause of death was obstruction of his airway by a soft object, which just leads you to imagine yourself what that might have been. It wasn't the first time he'd been rushed to hospital. It was the third admission to hospital in 4 months, and apart from that, 40 injuries. But Jamie Varley is insistent that he and John did nothing to hurt Preston. He doesn't know how all these bruises appeared that he had, and how what looked like a bite mark on his bum appeared. He doesn't know. Nothing to do with him, though, and nothing to do with John, according to him. So, what will the jury think? That's the question. Okay, so hello, you lovely lurkers. Listen, thank you so much for caring about Preston. Everybody who's watching. Hello to Replay Crew. Thank you to everyone for liking, subscribing. People have been interested in this case, and that's the whole point of my videos. Too many times, especially a little baby like Preston, who didn't really, you know, I don't know what's going, you know, his biological mum, that's whole nother, I'm not going to hear, but who's going to be Preston's voice? You know, this little baby, not only him, but other children, they can't be their own voice, can they? And Preston didn't even have how can I put it? So these men Preston was in their care. You know, they didn't snatch him away or whatever. He was in their care. They had a responsibility to protect him. They were supposed to be his dads, but of course they weren't. And it gives me the chills every time they refer to him as their son, or themselves as his dad, or whatever. They weren't his dad, and he wasn't son because they didn't treat him like that, you know. And they often, Jamie will refer to him as little one. Oh, you know, I had to put little one down for us, and John's that as well. Horrible way of referring to him. Oh, see what little one is doing, you know, instead of using his name. So his name, of course, is Preston. Sometimes you'll hear him referred to as Elijah because that was the name that they gave him. But he is gone, 13 months old, never have any life. And this Jamie Varley especially, all he ever talks about is how this has affected his life. You know, how you know, how he's feeling sorry for himself. He's a typical narcissist, typical psychopath in my view, because all he cares about is how everything is affecting him. And this is the guy, when we watched the video of him at the hospital, screaming for his mum. He's in his late 30s. He was screaming for his mum. And at the hospital, particularly, I effing killed him. I'm going to hell. But now he's not saying that. It wasn't him who killed him. Now he's saying it's nothing to do with him. He has no idea why this boy couldn't breathe, struggling for breath, and they just left him on the bed for over an hour. And when he took him to the hospital, he went floppy. But actually, I think he died, basically. And Jamie's excuse for how this happened now, it wasn't what he said at the time, is that he left him in the bath while he went and had a shower and conditioned his hair. And when Preston was laying face down in the bath, and he showed he had no water in his lungs. That's not what he died of. He died of obstruction of the airway. So it seems like this story about bath time was a total fabrication. But okay, so I'm going to put, I'll probably put several pictures of Preston up as I go along. I'm going to be, actually, I think I'll share I'm reading from the Manchester Evening News. So special thank you to my members. Sorry we're not having a members live tonight. I think we're going to do it tomorrow night instead, because there are no court hearing tomorrow for this case. So I'm going to save my voice for a members live tomorrow evening. I know you'll understand because it's an important case. Let's share the screen. I'm reading. So there's, as in the UK, that cameras aren't allowed, are they? In the court, in that guys can't access your screen. Why not? Why not? Why can't the browser access my screen? Let's try again. Yeah, it can now. So I've forgotten what I was saying now, so I got confused with the fact that the browser, it said the browser couldn't. Yeah, I've forgotten what I was saying, so there you go. Yeah, I'm reading from the Manchester Evening. That's what I was saying. So no reporters are allowed in the courtroom, but they're not allowed to record, and they're allowed to report. They are allowed then to report on, you know, on what happens in the courtroom. And I'm reading from the Manchester Evening News version of what happened in the courtroom. So we have to bear in mind as well, we're hearing it secondhand. We're not there in the courtroom. We're just reading how the reporter interprets what is said. And, you know, the people that are getting the full story, of course, are the jurors who are getting all the photos, all the videos. The reporters can't see those things. I don't think most of the jurors. And hopefully the jurors will come to the right decision. So yeah, hi lovely lurkers, hi replay crew. There's a few of you chatting already, so I'm just going to say hello to who's in the chat before I get on with it. Hi, Junior. Thank you. Hi, James. Hi, Jacqueline. I'm good, thank you. Hi, Skills. Watching from California. Wow. Hi, Louise. Hi, Tracy. Hi, Lily. Hi, Heather. Davey. So just said I'm going to do the members live tomorrow night instead. I'm going to do the members. What happened in the be any the jury on? I don't know if the courtroom is meeting tomorrow, but there's no evidence being given tomorrow. So no, it's not members live, but there's a few of the members here though. So it's a bit like members where we left off. No, 5. I mean, there's been the last couple of days, yesterday and today, it's been all about Jamie Varley, isn't it? And what he's got to say in his own defence, which basically seems to be like a load of lies, doesn't it? But anyway, so Mr. Wright, who is the prosecutor, asks if Mr. Varley was seeking to misrepresent the position to medical staff about the bruises on June the 30th because they had previously contacted safeguarding. So the thing is, you're also talking about a child who had been referred to safeguarding, because the hospital staff had been suspicious of all the bruises he had. Jamie keeps saying he was a clumsy toddler. He wasn't a toddler, he was only 13 months old. So he wasn't walking yet, he was crawling. And I know that babies do bang their heads and things like that. Of course they do. But you've got to think of the volume of 4 months in these men's care and over 40 injuries. That's not just a little bump on the head here and there, is it? 40, that's an average of 10 injuries every month he was in these monsters' care. So 3 hospital admissions, the final one resulting in death. And the other thing you've got to think of is the nature of the injuries. All the medical, the forensic pathologist and the doctors who sort of confirmed this decision that the cause of death was obstruction, they agreed that these are not normal injuries. Bruising at the back of the throat couldn't have been from the attempts to resuscitate him, etc. So anyway, Mr. Varley says no, he's not misrepresenting. But Mr. Wright refers to medical notes which say bruises to head. Oh, that's right, he said the toy box fell on his head and that the dad has videos of the incident. But Mr. Varley says it's incorrect. And Mr. Wright asks if the senior nurse on admission got it wrong. And Mr. Varley says yes. He's so reminiscent of Erin Patterson in her trial. Everybody else has got it wrong or lying, but I've got it right. That's what she said as well. This is what Jamie Varley's saying. The medical staff, the social workers, the foster mum, they're all wrong or lying. He's telling the truth. So he said, oh, so the staff nurse got it wrong. And he said, correct, because we did not state where the bruises came from. And Mr. Wright says, you were together, you and John, giving an account of the situation that led to his condition and the bruises on his forehead. And Mr. Varley says, your summary is wrong. And Mr. Wright says, at no stage did John say to you, privately or publicly, Jamie, you've got this wrong. And Mr. Varley says, I don't know what we've got wrong. Mr. Wright suggests the toy box incident happened 2 weeks earlier. Is it you were covering up what was really happening to that little boy, he asks. Mr. Varley says, you've got it wrong, very wrong. Everybody's wrong except Jamie Varley, aren't they? Yeah, even the dog's agreeing. Yeah. Mr. Varley told officers he had shown against him. Mr. Wright asked if he was not concerned about his son suffering a second potential collapse. Yeah, because he said he was having seizures. You know, he said, oh, I thought he was having a seizure. So he just left him on the floor and videoed him. He didn't, try and get any help or anything. Thank you all for thanking me. It's got to be talked about. When I first started doing it, I didn't want to do it. I don't like talking about children's cases. I find them very upsetting, as you know. But not only that, YouTube doesn't like it. They don't push the videos out. They make it clear that they're not really happy with the content. But then in the end, you think, what, do you just avoid things because they're unpalatable, and then these things don't get attention, do they? Sometimes you can't pretend, you can't sweep things under the carpet and pretend they're not happening. This happened, and Preston existed, and he might have had a short life. Mr. Varley told officers he had shown the video to a nurse. He tells the court he was petrified of allegations being made against them. Mr. Wright asked if he was not concerned about his son suffering a second potential collapse, but Mr. Varley said they were concerned, but at that point they were discussing the allegations. So now as these things come out, it gets clearer and clearer, doesn't it? The hospital. And they were under the attention that they had been referred for safeguarding issues. But he still carried on abusing little Preston. I wonder, and I've thought it a lot over the last couple of days, home or something, because how was he losing? If he knew that they'd already been referred to safeguarding, that there was already, you think he would have stopped abusing Preston? At least until things died down. But maybe he was drinking, taking drugs. I don't know. He was off work. He was bored shitless, basically. He felt, we know from his messages to John, he felt very strongly that he'd just been left to look after the baby. But do you know what? It was his choice. He chose to have a year off work to bring this little. I think, it just wasn't as easy as he thought it was going to be when John was out to work. And maybe he thought John was, seeing someone else. There was a few messages he'd sent to John, because where are you? You've got to get back here now. And John probably did everything he could to avoid going home. But maybe John was seeing somebody else, just don't know, do you? That I feel like there's a lot more to this. So how did he keep losing control the way he did? Because listen, everybody loses it sometimes, it's like you can all get angry, though you would not hurt person. But I remember when my son was little, sometimes they do. I mean, no, I don't mean a baby, because obviously couldn't do it, but I would just have to put him in his room sometimes, because sometimes you do lose it. You're a human being. But I'm thinking, did John lose control? In the day because he wasn't working? Was he bored and he was drinking and he was losing control because of that? because from even though he knew that the hospital were suspicious of him, it's a very big lack of error. What if he? You know, he had so many videos and photos. Why was he recording able to get everything back there? Because he did a lot on Snapchat, and Snapchat's hard to get messages. Delete a lot of the videos that have been presented as evidence against him. They were actually deleted off his phone. So he did try and cover up as well. Now, why would you try and do that? Anyway, he tells the court he showed the toy box video as an example. He maintains that Preston had bruises that lasted a long time, as he said in his police interview. Mr. Wright asks where in the interview does he say he showed the video as an example, but Mr. Varley says he didn't expand on his answers then. Then at 11:11, the defendant says he can give examples where Preston was injured by things. So, because when Mr. Wright asked him, how did he get those bruises you were being asked about on June the 30th, when he was presented to hospital staff and asked about them, and Mr. Varley said, I don't know, but I can give examples of when he's been injured by things. In 2023. On July the 4th, Mr. Varley messaged his partner at 8:47 saying, capital, so shouting, you can back him up in a minute, don't complain. And at 9:43 sent a message saying, I can't shower before you get home, so hurry. So he can't shower. But having said that, on that fateful day when Preston died, he got in the shower and while Preston was left in the bath on his own. And he decided to get in the shower and condition his hair, he said. Now but these messages are coming back that he sent to John saying, I can't have a shower until you get home, so hurry. You know, he's really irritated with John for some reason, isn't he? There's something, it's all going wrong. I wonder if there's another man involved or something. But he says it was a typo and he meant a bath, not a shower. However, he says he was not getting increasingly frustrated. Oh, come on. At his home and relationship situation. And Mr. Wright says, but on July the 7th, he was back in hospital with an avulsion fracture to his arm. And Mr. Varley agrees he had a fracture to his arm. And Mr. Wright says, why are there so many contradictory accounts from you as to how that little boy sustained that injury? And Mr. Varley says, there are not. Mr. Wright asks if accounts given to the medical staff are incorrect. And he says the odd comment, yes. In respect of Dr. Elbow from the fracture clinic, Mr. Wright asked the defendant whether the doctor had misunderstood. And Mr. Varley says, absolutely, yes. So he accused Dr. Elbow of misunderstanding. So he was xenophobic as well, because he accused Dr. Elbow of not understanding because of the language barrier. What about friends and colleagues? Asked the KC. And Varley says, I think they've just come at different points. So then Mr. Wright asks about Amy Shepherdson, who was Preston's social worker, and he refers to the account Mr. Varley gave, that they had visited John's parents and were late back. Preston had been put to bed. Hey. Sorry. Shh. Somebody's whistling their dog outside, and she's thinking, whistle? Is that? Hey! So, sorry, I might have to put her in the bathroom if she carries on barking. It's the big dog, as you can probably tell by the bark. So the prosecution suggests he feels the need to conceal what went on to cause the fracture, but Mr. Varley disagrees. Mr. Wright suggests that both went into Preston's room to settle him. Mr. Varley says they went to see what he was doing because he was making them laugh. Mr. Wright says the defendant suggested injury must have happened in that time and that Preston then settled for the night. He asks if he remembers the evidence from Dr. Gifford that the baby would be inconsolable and unsettled. But Mr. Varley said he wasn't unsettled and he gave him a wink as he lay him down. Who gave him a wink? Hi, Michelle. Hi, Sean. Yes, Scooby's Scooby's outside. So who gave who a wink? I mean, Preston's not going to be winking. So it's Mr. And why would you wink at a baby? It's just rubbish, isn't it? Anyway, so the KC says, you've each covered up what happened here, haven't you? And Mr. Varley says, no, the only story here is yours, sir. You know, he's so accusatory as well. So obviously the KC, you know, he's a prosecution lawyer and it's all his fault that Preston's dead by the sound of it, or how dare he accuse him? Mr. Wright asks if Amy Shepherdson misunderstood when she recorded that Mr. Varley said they'd been woken in the night, and the defendant says he told her they had got up, and that is how that misunderstanding must have happened. Another misunderstanding. Oh my goodness. It's misunderstanding after misunderstanding, isn't it, with this one? Right, where's my bloody Pinocchio? Put your Pinocchios up. Who's doing that? When the police asked him, I need to put my Pinocchio. Put your Pinocchios up. When the police asked him what, you know, he said to the police, I'm not as obsessed with Preston's genitals as you are. That's what he said to the police. What a thing to say. You know, absolutely. Right, I'm on the wrong one there. Hang on. My Pinocchio emojis. I find them. Oh God, nothing's working right. Why is that not doing that? I'm determined I'm going to find him. You know, it's not going to defeat. Yeah, very, very cocky and arrogant. And he's a liar. It says I've got an unstable internet connection. I haven't got an unstable internet connection. connection. It's fine on my phone. Maybe I've got too many windows open. That's a possibility. That's a possibility. Why is my... Why is my... Sorry. Still hasn't come up. Oh, never mind. I have to give in with that. Oh, yeah, it's come up. Come up, finally. Right, okay, let's go back to where I was. So the health visitor visited the family as he was unsettled, and he squirmed as they put him down. But Mr. Varley says, no, the word squirming was never used. And a friend said that Mr. Varley said they had gone to see Preston in the night and he was in an odd position. I don't know what she's referring to as an odd position, he says. And Mr. Varley says, so she doesn't remember, sir. He said there was no mention of any banging of the arm or car by his friend. So everyone who's said... So, different people had said to the police that Jamie and John had given different versions, all these different versions of how Preston had fractured his arm, but Jamie Varley now is saying, no, he never said any of that. Mr. Wright says the defendant has repeatedly given inconsistent, said that it was as he was either putting Preston in the car seat or taking him out, but he's denying that he ever said that. He says others said Mr. Varley said he caught his arm in the cot bars, but the defendant said they were taking his arms off years later. It's not that many years later, it's 3 years later. In a text message to a friend shortly after the injury occurred, Mr. Varley said, it happened in their company. You know, he can twist anything around, this man. In another message to a jury is told, and we were holding his hands, he sort of twizzled. And Mr. Wright says, is the reality that you both knew full well how this happened? And Mr. Varley said, your reality is wrong. Mr. Wright suggests the defendant yanked or pulled Preston's arm. He wasn't settled. You were finally had come to the end of your tether, says the KC. But Mr. Varley says, absolutely not. There were times when it was hard work, but we would absolutely not hurt our little boy. You are absolutely wrong. He doesn't say Preston's name very often, or Elijah. You know, it's often little one, our little boy, our son. It's rare for him to actually use his name. You know, it's rare for him to use his name. Which to me is telling. I feel he can't use his name because it makes him feel bad. So on July the 12th, the jury is told Mr. Varley texted a friend And he said he was not in a good place and he was struggling. So this was the other thing. He told a friend he didn't want to be here anymore. You know, he was depressed as well. It's all about him. God, that poor baby. How was that baby ever put with these two idiots who couldn't look after a goldfish? Never mind a baby. Mr. Varley tells the court there were many times he was struggling, but not because of parenting. He remembers meeting a friend at a hotel that day, the jury hears. He doesn't recall asking for some of her anti-anxiety medication. So apparently he asked his friend for her anti-anxiety. Well, she says he did. He doesn't remember that. He'll probably say she's lying. And Mr. Varley says that conversation didn't take place. So she's another liar. According to him, everyone's a liar except for Jamie Varley. He agrees that Mr. McGowan Fazakerly met them and he gave the baby to him, but he says it was his turn rather than saying he couldn't cope, as his friend said. Now, so we're talking about a man here who's not working, right? He's not working. He's taken a year off to look after a baby that he wanted, you know, that they applied to adopt a baby. He's got his mum lives up the road. He's got support from her. He's got all these bloody friends, it seems. He's always talked about he went to meet a friend, he spoke to a friend, all his friends. And he's got a partner and he can't cope. Why did he ever get a baby? And then he's saying to John, when John gets home, right, it's your turn now, I've had him all day. Well, yeah, because John's been at work. You know what I mean? John would probably prefer to spend some time with the baby than, well, you know, depending on what you believe of John. I'm not 100% certain that John is involved. I think he probably was. But let's give John the benefit of the doubt and presume he wasn't involved. You know, he's out at work all day. He gets in and then he walks into this screaming banshee who we've seen exactly how dramatic he is, as he was at the hospital. This screaming banshee saying to right, you have him now. It's your turn. You know, it's your turn. You better get home soon because I can't shower otherwise. But then another day he left Preston in the bath while he went and had a shower, didn't he? But, you know, it's just cojones, isn't it? Cojones is Spanish for bollocks. It's just all bollocks, everything he says. He agrees that Mr. GF met them and he gave the baby to him, but he says it was his turn rather than that he couldn't cope. Now, apparently his friend said he couldn't cope. But no, his friend was lying. It wasn't. It was his turn. So then at 11:32, the jury was told of noted stresses in the defendant's life. On July the 13th, 2023, the jury is told that head teacher Rebecca Warhurst, so don't forget, Jamie Varley was head of year at a high school. So he had a responsible work. So that's the other thing. He can't cope. He's got no financial worries. You know, it's not financial problems. He's worrying about maybe losing his job, but he hasn't lost it yet. Paid Mr. Varley a visit at home with another staff member. And in her record, she noted 3 stresses in Mr. Varley's life. And the jury was told that was the birth mother challenging the adoption, Mr. McGowan Fazakerly facing possible redundancy, and a house move. Well, do you know what? Buying a new house, that's a choice. Nobody was making them buy a new house. You know, they chose to buy a new house apparently the morning of the horrible day where Preston died. They met up with their mortgage advisor, left the baby with Jamie's mom and met up with their mortgage advisor. Well, you know, it is a stress, but well, then don't buy a new house. You know, it's not an obligation. They had a house. Why were they buying a new house? So this is what, so all these stresses in his life, apart from the birth mother challenging the adoption, were choices. He made choices in his life. So yeah, it's a thing this with, but I'd like to find out more officially about the birth mother. Was she challenging the adoption? Is it true? I think it is true, according to the mainstream media. It is true that little Preston's birth mom, when she was a teenager, she actually murdered somebody, and that's probably why the baby was taken off her. I don't know. I'd like to know the full details of that. So it seems like, from what's been said here, she wanted the baby, but she wasn't allowed to have Preston. It seems like that's what was going on, isn't it? Yeah, Sean, it is. It is a horrible case. It's a horrible. Oh, all children's cases are going to be particularly horrible, aren't they? But I think this one, just because he's, so little, and all those injuries in just 4 months, it must have been constant. Constant abuse to create 10 injuries a month to this boy on average. It's a shame his birth mother didn't get him, because the thing is, she's now in her 30s herself, and what she did was a terrible thing. But it was a long time ago, and presumably she's a reformed character, I don't know. But she did do a terrible thing to an old lady. Anyway, we won't go into that here. The jury's told that on July 19th, the videos of Preston spinning in the toy saucer at the park were filmed. So this was the spinning cups. Preston was put in them and spun so fast that he went practically unconscious, and he was visibly distressed. And this twonk videoed it. Do you regret what you did to him on that day, says the KC. And Mr. Varley says, I do regret spinning him that fast. Did you regret it while you were doing it, asked Mr. Wright. And Jamie says, I regretted it after my interviews. What? Yeah, he regretted it after his interviews because he realised it made him look like the twat he is. He didn't regret it when little Preston was stricken, visibly distressed in the videos. Well, the jury will have seen those videos. I hope this jury makes the right decision in this case. He regretted it after his interviews. Wow. The thing is, if you went a bit too far and you're a bit exuberant, as soon as you saw your little boy was distressed, you would go, oh, sorry, I shouldn't have done that. You may do it without realising. Well, I don't think you would, but at the end of the day, let's get, suppose if you did and you suddenly thought, oh, I spun him a bit too fast there, you would go to him and comfort him and take him out as soon as you saw he was distressed. Oh, not this twonk. He only regretted it after his interviews. He's asked whether at no stage in life did you regret what you did to this little boy on July the 19th. And Mr. Varley says, there was no reflecting or understanding, no. Did you regret when you were focusing on his eyes? Because what he did was he put the video up. Preston had his eyes closed. He was practically unconscious. And he went up to him and lifted his eyelid up. That was on the video. So the thing is, he's taken all these videos and you can't argue with them, can you? They're there, they're videoed. So the KC says, he says, I didn't regret, I just realised I'd spun him too fast, said Mr. Varley. And the KC says that in one picture, Mr. Varley appears to be focusing on his face and eyes. I checked his eyes. Sorry, I have to talk like that because that's how he talks. He's so pathetic. And, he's just a man baby, isn't he? I checked his eyes because I felt they weren't doing what they should have been doing. I realised he had his eyes closed and they were spinning back and forth as they are in the video. So his eyes were spinning back. Oh my God. He'd spun this baby so fast, his eyes were spinning backwards and forwards. So the jury will have seen that. This jury have got to find this guy guilty, haven't they? Anyway, he's asked by what he did about it, and he says they went home, probably went home and sex abused him then. Mr. Wright says 9 seconds later there was another spinning video. And he says, do you remember the phrase frozen watchfulness? He asked. This little boy was resigned to his fate, and it was obvious on his face. And Mr. Varley said, no, this little boy, our little boy, had a brilliant life with us. Oh, fuck off. Oh my God, now I'm getting angry. He had a brilliant life with us. He had such a fantastic life with them. 4 weeks, 40 injuries. Wow. Then he was dead. 3 hospital admissions. What a fantastic life that boy had, eh? According to this twonk. Oh my God. Monster. Absolute monster. He had a brilliant life with us. Did you regret it when you sent it to your friend or partner? That's the video. And he says, no, I regretted it when it was pointed out to me. But do you know what? If you didn't laugh, you would cry. He regretted it when he realised how it showed that he'd abused Preston. He regretted it. That's when he regretted it, when he got caught out. Mr. Varley says, that is my regret and always will be. He's just not for real, is he, this guy? He's asked if he sent the one that showed you opening his eye. No, I sent the one with music. Music? I just didn't click in that moment that my actions were wrong, says the defendant. For whose benefit did you set it to music? So he even set it to music. This little boy visibly distressed and his eyes rattling around in his head, and he set it to music. For fuck's sake. There was no benefit and there wasn't any amusement, he says. He was spinning around and it was a song about spinning around. He was your plaything and you were serially abusing him, said Mr. Wright. And it's true that. He was his plaything. He was just like a little toy. Every time he got bored, he tortured him for fun. He's a vile man. I mean, really, really, just unbelievable what this boy went through. This baby. And he said, no, if that was the case, there would be thousands of images, Mr. Varley said. God. Oof. Yeah, I think, Louise, I agree with both, all of you, what you're saying. He's a monster. I think Preston was tortured, what Jacqueline said. And I agree with Louise, psychopaths cannot empathise. And I'll tell you something, sometimes, I hope you'll understand why I'm saying this, there's times when I think to myself, I wish I was more psychopathic and less empathetic, because it's hard being an empath. You just feel weighed down by the world sometimes. You know, even a little thing. I'm trying to think what I saw the other day and I couldn't stop thinking about it. I think it was a hedgehog in the road or something. And this hedgehog was just sat in the middle of the bloody road. And anyway, I avoided it, went round it. But I was worrying about it all night, if this hedgehog had got to the side of the road or not. And this morning, when I was driving up there, I'm looking out for it because I'm This was late last night when we saw the hedgehog just sitting in the middle of the road. And the thing is, there weren't many cars on the road. It's a very windy road. And I thought some people won't even try and avoid animals on the road. Oh, there was an owl on the road as well. An owl this morning, a little baby owl that looked, and it was in the other lane to the way I was going. And I saw it and I'm thinking, oh, what do I do? Could I beat my horn and try and make it fly off because this car's coming the other way? And it was a busy time. Anyway, a car coming the other way slowed down, luckily, and this owl just flew off. So that was okay. But yeah, that bloody hedgehog, I worried about it all night. That, and I thought, God, it must be quite nice being a psychopath, really, because you don't have to have all these emotions. You don't have to have all this worrying about whether the hedgehog got to the other side of the road or not. That's how much something can affect me. I mean, honestly, there's sometimes things. There was a video once that I saw on X that I'll never ever forget. I don't know how it had got on there, and it was the most distressing video I've ever seen. That was about the abuse of a child, and I just couldn't stop thinking. Still haven't stopped thinking about it, and it was about a year ago. Just can't get the images out of my head. So, people who can do horrible things like this man has done to Preston, how could he not care about how Preston was reacting? Look, he really is a monster. Iceman. An Iceman is like cold as ice. Anyway, on July the 19th, Mr. Varley messaged his partner to ask why he was in Salford. Yeah, see, this is it. He was in Salford Keys, apparently. So I think John was having an affair, personally. I'm thinking it more and more. Or Jamie thought maybe he was having an affair. And he tells the court they followed each other on Find My Friends. But he says it was not a control thing. No. It was just so that he wouldn't call him when he was driving. Fuck off. He then sent the spinning around video. So, yeah, a lot of these things he's definitely done to... it's almost like a punishment for John, if you like, or a clamour for attention from him. A lot that, these things were always done when John was out at work. And he's looked at him on Find My Friends. He's been, why is he in Salford? What's he doing in Salford? He's supposed to be blah, blah, blah. He's with someone. There's definitely, he is a control freak, this guy. Do you know what? This couple, they've got a toxic relationship, haven't they? And they're still together, don't forget. But their relationship is so toxic, and Preston just got caught up in the middle of it all, didn't he? He got caught up in the middle of it all. Right. Everyone in Preston's life, well, except for maybe the foster parent. I think with the foster parent, he did have some love and comfort in the foster family. It was a family, wasn't it? So, but really, that's the, I don't think any of the social workers were much good, really, or, nobody really picked up on anything that was happening. But they should never, I don't think this comes back to what we said right at the beginning. What are the criteria for adopting a baby? If somebody wants to adopt a baby, they should have to surrender all their, let the police look at all, or the social workers or whatever, examine their social media, their messages between the partners. What sort of a relationship is it? You don't give a baby to a toxic partnership like this one. I'm not against same-sex couples adopting babies or children. That's, to me, these men, they're not horrible because they're gay. They're not horrible because of their sexuality. They're just horrible people. you know, there's plenty of, you know, husband and wives that abuse their children as well. So, you know, I don't think it's that kind of thing. Not in my opinion, anyway. It's not about that. But they are horrible people. You know, what? Not because of their sexuality, but just because they're twonks. Yeah, the foster parents. Yeah. Anyway, the jury is told there's a photo of Preston in a bath on July the 21st. Mr. Varley says it is deeper than his usual one, and he didn't always use a bath seat. The court is now showing the photos showing Preston over the bars of the cot. Do you remember this photo? These photos? Preston's over the side of the bar of the cot with blue lips and he's dribbling from his mouth, and he's taking a video of him. Mr. Wright suggests the baby was put in that position and abused, and Mr. Varley says that is not correct. And he says, we've established he was left there for quite a long time, which I'm not proud of. So again, now that he's been caught out doing it, he's not proud of it, but he didn't, at the time, he was just happy to take video of him and pictures of him. What was he going to do with those photos? And he says it was saliva coming from the baby's mouth. Mr. Wright says Preston was struggling to breathe, which he says was apparent from his colour and the position of his neck over the bar. Now this is going to make me cry because I can't believe that they could just leave that baby like that, you know, and just take photos and videos like it was funny. The defendant says he didn't feel he was in any danger. He agrees he called Mr. GF to come and look at the position that he'd fallen asleep in. Now, John was there that day. He says he laid Preston down when GF came in the room. But Mr. Wright says, the pair of you, SEX assaulted that boy, didn't you? And Mr. Varley says, no, you're incredibly wrong. Very wrong. I don't think he is wrong. I think that's exactly what happened to that baby. Where's the Pinocchio? Liar. Nobody, you know, a baby lying over the, you know, with his head over the cot, saliva dripping from his mouth, blue lips. And he's not going to and see, oh, what's the matter? He's taking a video of him and thinking it's funny. He's a vile man. You know, whichever way you look at it, whether you think it was an SEX attack or not, it wasn't right to just leave him there like that. He says on reflection, now that he's thought about it and been caught out, he should have laid him down. He said, if I felt there was any danger, I would have laid him down. He was your plaything, wasn't he, Mr. Wright says. And Mr. Varley says, no, he was not. He was our beautiful boy that was very much loved. There are some things I got wrong, but he was very much loved, and that is something you will never, ever be able to take away. So see, again, he's accusatory to the barrister. It's the barrister's fault, obviously, all this. Well, you know, it's true. Jamie knows what really happened. And remember at the hospital, he was screaming, I'm going to hell, I'm going to hell. Well, Jamie, you are going to hell. I think I've got one of the members' emojis, hell. Let's have a look. That the hell one. I hope I'm putting the right one up there. I can't see very well on my phone. Yeah, you are definitely going to hell, Jamie. 100%. You're going to hell. I don't know if that is the hell emoji that I've put the right one up. I think I have. I think so. So yeah, he's definitely going to hell, this man, for what, you know, he knows what he did. but we'll see what the jury makes of it. And Mr. Wright asks, what really happened that day when you were at home? And he says, no sex allegations, as you would say, Mr. Varley replied. Mr. Wright asks about 3 photos taken on May the 15th, which he says show Preston in the cot with his feet over his head. Why not move in, Mr. Wright says. I don't understand why I would. He was not in any danger, Mr. Varley says. I'm just thinking he was in his cot with his feet over his head. Anyway, it's not a natural position, really. That is it for a baby, but possibly. Mr. Wright suggests that the defendant positioned the baby like it for his own amusement. And Mr. Varley says, I don't understand what the amusement would be. Mr. Wright says later that day, July the 23rd, he discovered GF had gone out. It was a Sunday, and they had a routine for a Sunday, the jury is told. He was asked about a photo he took of Preston's bottom that day. He says he was alone in the house when he took the photo, and that he showed it to Mr. McGowan for Zachary when he got home. And the defendant agrees that GF would use his phone differently to the way he did. And Mr. Wright asks if he uses it to pay for things. One of his phones, Mr. Varley says, however, he then says he can't say whether he does or not. He says he just assumes he does, but he can't say. And Mr. Wright suggests the photo was a memento. The defendant disagrees. A photo he took of his bottom, oh dear me. Mr. Wright then goes back to the police interview where Mr. Varley was asked about the spinning playground toy and shown the video. Mr. Varley says it sometimes takes him a while to recognise he's wrong. During that interview, he told officers Preston had some diarrhoea on the day he slumped over the cot bars. Mr. Varley said he noticed a problem with Preston's bottom, and he took a picture to show his mum and Mr. GF. But by the time he changed him again, it didn't seem a problem. He said he showed the photo to GF when they were in the house, and GF later changed him. And Mr. Wright suggests this was the day that Preston was sex abused by both men. But Mr. Varley says no. On July 24th, there was a 14-minute video of Preston alone in the bath. You wouldn't leave a baby alone in the bath for 14 seconds, never mind 14 minutes. Mr. Varley said it was to see how he would cope with being alone. And Mr. Wright asked if this was a dry run and whether he had dark thoughts about drowning him in the bath. And Mr. Varley says that is not the case. We lost our boy. You forget about that when you put these allegations forward. I could not think straight, he says. It's all the barrister's fault again. They lost their boy. Well, whose fault was it? It's your fault. In an interview on September the 14th, Mr. Varley was asked about the Snapchat video captured on the day Preston died, which the prosecution says shows him in distress. Mr. Varley didn't recall that video, and he told officers he was being asked about things he didn't remember. Did you need time to get your story together, Mr. Wright asked. No, I had just forgotten about that video of him having the seizure on the bed. Well, you would forget, wouldn't you? Your baby has a seizure on the bed, you'd forget all about it. It's nothing. Oh, what? Oh, yeah, you had a seizure on the bed. Oh, that's nothing to see here, nothing important that I need to remember. In the interview, Mr. Varley said he took it to ask a friend who knew about epilepsy. He tells the court that is correct. You were just making it up as you went along, the case he suggests. He says that friend isn't someone he would always Snapchat with, and he would usually WhatsApp. I would have a conversation on WhatsApp. Yes, the odd occasion, the odd video would be Snapchat. And Mr. Wright asked, are you editing your responses? But Mr. Varley said Snapchat would have been the easiest format. Mr. Varley also asks if he was worried about what Mr. Varley asks if he was worried about what GF might be saying in the next interview room, when he replied no comment. And Mr. Varley says there was nothing to shy away from. Casey asks whether in the intervening period prior to his detention on the 11th, 12th of June 2025, whether he and GF had been in a relationship. And he says yes. Is it by now, June 2025, you'd managed to come up with a joint version of events? No, John and I, it was always very difficult, he says. He said there were many months where they were unable to speak about the passing of Elijah, also known as Preston. Mr. Wright claims they were both abusive to the baby, jointly ill-treated and neglected him, and on more than one occasion Mr. Varley restricted his airway. And Mr. Varley said, that boy, our son, has never been sex abused. Mr. Wright says it was only then that you attempted to explain any of the injuries at post-mortem, saying it could be intubation or caused by medical staff. The reality is you killed that boy. And he says our boy was not sex abused or murdered or hit. And that is the end of the cross-examination for the prosecution of Jamie. So I don't know if John's going to testify or not. I think that might be, oh no, there's still a bit more. So now this is his own lawyer, Mr. Kennedy Casey, the defence lawyer for Jamie. He's clarifying some answers given relating to his explanation of rubbing Preston's belly like a tube of toothpaste when he took him out of the bath on July the 27th. Mr. Varley said he rubbed Preston's belly and back in the bedroom and bathroom. He said he rubbed the belly quite hard and he hit his back with his bare hands. Mr. Kennedy asks, did you ever treat Preston simply as a plaything to be amused? And he says, no, we did not, I did not. Mr. Kennedy then asks about the suggestion that by July the 11th, sorry, just got a drink. He was increasingly broken down by his circumstances, and he had told a friend he had a right meltdown. And Mr. Kennedy points to a later message in which he says he had spoken to a social worker and he felt better. Mr. Varley confirms that after speaking with a social worker, he felt reassured that what he was feeling was normal. There you go, the social worker missed those red flags. Let me put the red flags up now. So he had spoken to the social worker and he had told the social worker that he was struggling, having problems and blah, 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 blah. But just wasn't picked up on enough, was it, I suppose? I don't know. He agrees that the head teacher and school staff members were correct when they noted that Mr. Varley appeared in better spirits after their home visit. Mr. Kennedy asks if he spun Preston in the saucer toy again after he noticed his eyes were looking unusual, and the defendant says he did not, and that concludes Mr. Kennedy's re-examination. So they finished very early today because at 12:31 The judge told the jury that that's as far as the trial can go today, and he said the trial will now adjourn until 10:30 a.m. on Monday. So no hearing tomorrow, and then on Monday a defence pathologist will give evidence. So we've heard from the pathologist Alison Armour. Don't forget Alison Armour. She was the forensic pathologist also. Let's put a picture of her up. She was the forensic pathologist at the Nicola Bulley trial. Not trial, sorry. Should have been a trial. No, never mind. Alison Armour, she was the forensic pathologist in the Nicola Bulley inquest. And she is the one that's testified to Preston's injuries, saying that he had bruising at the back of his throat and this, that, and the other. And her findings were confirmed by Dr. Gifford, another doctor. But it was Alison Armour that did the physical examination of baby Preston after he died. But Dr. Gifford confirmed Alison Armour's findings. But Dr. Gifford did not do a physical examination of Preston. Her conclusion was come to by the medical reports and photos and things that she'd been sent. She didn't actually get the chance to examine Preston, whereas Alison Armour, she did examine him. Bless him. Very distressing that must be, as I said before, to do an autopsy on a little baby. Just must be. Oh, just can't, imagine. I mean, doing an autopsy on anyone is, it's not. Someone has to do it, and I'm glad some people do choose that profession because somebody's got to do it. But God, a baby. I mean, I just always wondered. That's it. As I say, being an empath, I couldn't do that job because I just wouldn't be able to go home and forget it. Because you've got to lead a normal life. You've got to go home and have your dinner after you've done that. You just wonder how people can do it, don't you? But they do. Some people. Sorry. Jesus. Some people can compartmentalise like that. See, I couldn't. I would go home and that be. I just won't be able to stop thinking about that baby. I can't stop thinking about him as it is. I haven't seen him in that state, to see what would happen to him. And anyway, but luckily people do that job because somebody's got to do it. But so it's saying that on Monday the defence. So obviously the defence have probably had their own autopsy done, and the defence pathologist is going to speak. I wonder if John's going to speak. So the trial will now adjourn until 10:30 on Monday, when a defence pathologist will give evidence, and the judge wishes the jury a good weekend and reminds them not to conduct any of their own research. And that concludes the evidence for today. It's funny, isn't it? So they get sent home, the jury. They're going to be home now Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and they're not supposed to do any, go on Google or do anything. How do you know that they haven't? Yeah, Louise, you couldn't do the job either, no. How do you know? Maybe that jury, they'll just go straight home and get on Google. I don't know. But having said that, they still got to go by the evidence, haven't they? The evidence that's been presented, we've had the prosecution case, now we're hearing the defence case, and it'll be interesting to see, is the defence pathologist then going to come up and say, oh no, there was no bruising to the throat, or say that the bruising that was to the throat is caused by something else? What they're going to say it's caused by. So we've had two medical professionals now that have said that bruising to Preston's throat could not have been by intubation. It must have been while he was still alive, because you don't bruise apparently after you're deceased, which made me quite, remember Nicola Bulley had quite a lot of bruises on her that were never explained, were they? She had quite a few bruises. She had that big L-shaped bruise on her leg, and they were never explained, were they, those bruises? But they must have been while he was still alive, because, as Alice Narmer says in this case, she's the same forensic pathologist that did Nicola Bulley's autopsy, your body does not bruise after the heart stopped beating. So to bruise, you have to have blood flowing. And so that's what she said, that the bruises on Preston's throat, in her opinion, had been done just hours prior to him dying, but while he was still alive. So it'd be interesting to see what the defence pathologist comes up with, because I think we are all more or less convinced that they're guilty, or certainly that Jamie is guilty, I know. But of course, we've got to listen to all the evidence. Well, we don't. It doesn't make any difference what we think. We're just giving our opinion. That's what we're doing here in the live chat and that. And we have the right to do that. We have the right to have our opinions. We're not on the jury. And if we were on the jury, we wouldn't talk about it, except between, I don't know if the jury are allowed to talk between themselves at break time and things like that. I don't know if they're allowed to even do that. Or have they got to wait until you're actually sent away to come to a verdict? Anyway, but we're not on the jury. So we can talk about, we can give our opinions, what we think, whether, Jamie never comes over to me as a sincere person who's not lying, sadly. That's how it comes over to me in the interviews, that's the police interviews, the different things he said, the way he was at the hospital, where he said, oh, I've effing killed him, I'm going to hell. He knows he is going to hell. He knew he killed him. And I think those videos at the hospital, they're the raw videos of before he had a chance to think about anything. That's my opinion anyway, but we all have an opinion, don't we? Okay, so yeah, couldn't do that job, Louise. So there won't be any more on this day. So what, tomorrow night in the members live, I'm going to do the members live tomorrow night. If you're not a member, please join and come and join us, because we're going to have a break from true crime completely. We normally do in the members lives talk about something a bit lighter, because true crime, it's so, it's important, and you're either interested in true crime or you're not, and I am, for whatever, well, there's lots of reasons why I am, but I was watching Netflix, was it yesterday? Anyway, it spilled over today. Like Netflix, and I watched Kylie Minogue documentary. So it's in 4 or 5 episodes. It's about Kylie Minogue and her life so far, of course. Oh God, it was fascinating. What a woman. I mean, she really is. I'm from the Kylie Minogue where I'm from, but I never liked her when I was young. She was too sort of twee for me. Like, I was like things more, I like new romantics, and things had more of an edge. And of course Kylie was, shiny pop sort of thing, and Stop Aiken Waterman type thing. But very interesting to see how it all developed, talking about relationships, talking about cancer. She's had a very difficult life. She's had fame and fortune, but it's not all been plain sailing. And money and fame doesn't bring happiness in your love life. Of course, she had a relationship with Michael Hutchins from In Excess. He later killed himself, didn't he? And anyway, I found a lot of resonance with things that happened in my own life. Anyway, we're going to talk about that in the members' live, I've decided. Remember, and you've got Netflix, try and watch the documentary first so you can give an opinion on it, what you think. It's very interesting. I watched all episodes, not back to back. I did have a break overnight and then watched the rest of it earlier on today. But I was fascinated with it. You know, she's very interesting. A difficult life she's had, but despite it, all those. It's funny, isn't it? I love you, but you can't find happiness in love in your private life. And there's all those fans out there that need anything to go out with Kylie Minogue. She can't find love, or she's found it a couple of times, and I think it was obvious she's still in love with Michael Hutchins. That's how it struck me. Anyway, that's what we're going to talk about tomorrow. So if you get a chance, and you remember, try and watch it. Oh gosh. Try and watch some of it. I'll tell you about it anyway, about some of the things we're going to talk about. I can't show it because Netflix won't let you do that, but I'm going to talk about what it was about. I hope you find it interesting. Well, it's a little bit lighter than true crime. And if you know one, come and join us tomorrow night for that live. I may be online tomorrow. Depends what happens. This is Preston, Davey, might come up. In case I will be back. I've got to finish off the painting on my roof. I return at some point, hopefully morning. Press share, press notifications. Most of all, look after. I'll see you really soon in the next video. And until then, may your God go with you. Thank you. Thank you so much.